Oh.
Sorry, not to beg.
It's up to you.
How's your food? Can I get you guys anything else? You are representing the world, so however you want the world to play out, it's up to you.
Nadie quería
Someone want pomelos? Anyone? No? Okay.
What are pomelos?
Yes? Would you like some pomelos?
Okay, thank you. It's for you. Pomelos are grapefruits. If you have not already done so, please take a moment to share your description to everyone in your group so that everyone can understand who all is in the group.
Okay. I'm an English professor at the University in the United Kingdom, and my first worked at a big company, and we're having and we got the orders of the people enjoying their time for the enjoying the time.
The major international Japanese car company.
No, we're just
International competition.
my kids in school, school meal programs, because kids are always bringing up
with a daily Monday free meal from local pockets around the city.
Craft artists making bedded jewelry and drums for artists, and after a year's violence resulting, there was less tourists, which led
So, Lynn says you work in fields of Cambodia. Your grandfather has been an advocate man, but during Pol Pot's time, your family had to go into hiding to escape the leaders' campaign against educated or Western influence. You never had the chance to go to school. Now your life is established in the fields where your family is
Your mother of your husband works hard on a farm to provide family for the kids.
Why didn't we have this class very long?
That's the reality, is we have more, in the high income group, we have more food than we can eat, right? And so a lot of their leftovers, do you think any of their groups will ever have leftovers on purpose? No. So that's the reality of this group, but yeah, definitely.
Your boyfriend did not allow you to
enjoy it
fulfill your
and
finances, and now you're left with nothing.
You're sharing with each other your descriptions?
You're now staying at a woman's
I need
house
a
in
group
Los Angeles,
leader.
where your retirement will end soon, and you have yet to secure a job. Even when you find one, it will be difficult to manage
Here.
two children.
Here are some discussion questions, and you guys can
You're
form a
worried
circle
about
if
your
you'd like, and
family
I'd
as
like you
you
to
also
please
care
go through and discuss each
with
of
your
those.
own well-being.
You're there, please. Thank you. Please read the questions one by one and please discuss them.
Okay, I think this
Have you guys shared the descriptions of each other? Can I have a group leader from this group? You're gonna have a discussion. Here's some discussion questions. So please go ahead and read the question out loud and have everyone.
How does everyone feel?
Is everyone enjoying their meal?
Is it fair how this was decided?
It's good bread.
40 or no, it's not fair, and
I can't be bothered
they
to get
can
up and
choose.
How does everyone
to
feel?
the well. It's too far.
I could, but it's really busy.
I'm happy they got it.
Is it fair how what he said it? You wanna be like
I feel very
Is it fair how this was decided? Do people choose to live in poverty?
and
Why?
the people choose to live in poverty.
Is it fair how this was decided? Do people choose to live in poverty? Why?
They're born in a poor family or a rich family.
Yeah, it's not fair.
They're just born into it.
What is the price?
They just
People
have enough
sometimes
money.
go
Not
down
have
to
enough
and it's pretty
people
hard to like to escape those classes. And sometimes
everyone like
They're
has the same.
the ones in the higher classes, it's easier for them to stay in their class.
Yeah, these
They're affected.
So they can easily find different jobs. Whereas in the lower classes.
How did the price of coffee affect people in the different
Okay,
cities?
so then.
How does the price of the coffee affect?
Was it connected to anything else? Do you have much control over the mood? Yes, because we gave them work. So,
Well, they belong to the other. Has it been for anything else that you have not
to the hole
in his
life made another plant thing led for them.
The higher
And-
software.
and well, like, who's the one who
Lose their
goes
jobs
down?
must be
Joseph
Allow
and
participants to express their
Lillian.
Benefit and how it
Nadia.
instead of
okay, so
seeing how it
they
affects other people behind.
lost their job and have less.
Kind of like the
So
people
then
in the lower classes.
allow participants to express any other feelings that they
with their mistakes.
Okay. Who else moved from one group to another? Was it connected to anything else?
this war
Was it connected to anything else?
Straight.
Much like how we live in,
like, just depends on all of them.
until the people who were basically but there was some change where the class peers,
have enough.
they even though
They also lose
And
their
what
jobs.
lesson have you
fight
learned
or not,
today?
they're not fighting, they have so
There
much
are a lot
money.
of poor
Like,
people.
we're in the field, the middle that's working, and then they get like 75% of all the
You can deal with.
Food is very
Allow participants to express any other feelings that they have.
I think that the video that they showed us was very touching. And I don't know, it made me want to go there and help the other people live with less because they're living with 86%.
And also how we see that maybe people are definitely doesn't know anything about it or they try to. But then still face the reality that there's some people that are suffering while others are just relaxing and going to school and taking something.
Like,
It was
it makes sense
confusing
that we
why
should.
the guy, like the photographer, didn't help the kid. It's so messed up.
Cause like in real life, we are just saying. Yeah, what lessons have you learned today?
You still do.
Okay, guys, try to wrap up your discussion about those different topics, and then we're going to be hearing from each group. So I want you to think of a couple things that your group talked about that you would share, that you would like to share out, that might give the other groups a better perspective of what it felt like to be in your group, okay? So I want you to just kind of think about a summary of the things that you talked about and a couple thoughts that were shared that might give the other groups a better idea of what it felt like, what your personal feelings were to be in your group. Okay, so just take a moment to reflect, and if you want to discuss who has something to share to represent the group, please do that now.
So what do we share?
Getting some poor people, like getting them less hard. We've got
Or like you felt
just
like
want to make things more.
And then
What was
we're
it
still thankful that we
like
have
you felt through the school and all that.
And the education and more jobs.
I felt bad for those
Always.
like in the lower class, but I think in the middle class we don't have enough resources
We
to
don't.
help them, so we're kind of stuck.
Okay, so, we're gonna go ahead and share out, and we'll start with the, should we start with the high income and go down? Okay, let's start with the high income group, and anyone who'd like to share, just kind of give us your perspective and what you guys talked about.
I feel kind of embarrassed because I don't know, like we have so much food and it's like we're not eating all of it because we already ate this morning, so we're all full, and like everyone else like we have like a little bit, and it's like take it because I don't know, I felt bad, like I felt embarrassed.
Would you guys like to add anything?
Well, I also felt like embarrassed, but because of like how like the high class people really have control over the lower classes, and they, instead of like trying to solve the problem, they're just wanting to get richer and make the other people like have even less money.
Does anybody remember what the quote was at the very end of the video I showed you? Gandhi's quote.
There is enough for everybody's needs, but not for everyone's greed.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody, any other comments? Middle income group?
We saw the same way as the high class because we would see the people in the lower class and we'd kind of like feel bad, but then we didn't have necessarily like enough resources to help them also because we're kind of like, we're at the limit and we can't move at all. So giving the lower class our food would mean taking away from our needs. So we can't really do anything.
So you're still surviving also. It's not that you have so much flowing in that you have enough to spare. Okay, that's a nice perspective. Anyone else from the middle income group like to share?
And then we also saw that the higher class, they were really selfish because it like they really care about how the decision benefits them and not how other people behind or like behind like the example of how that
Like Taft,
yeah
Jorma's?
character didn't see how people were being affected by his decision, and
Thank you. Yes.
So, and I think that this activity, I thought it was very helpful because it made me and I hope other people realize that we're all from the high class here, so we should do something about it, not like leave this room and keep on with our lives.
Anybody else from the middle income group?
Yeah, also, I realized that most of us probably in here get more pocket money than people from the lower class earn. It's quite impressive.
Like people in here, meaning your real lives, not your
In
character.
general. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Like our pocket money is even more, because they won what, $2 a day?
Some of them get $2.50 a day.
That's like 1,000 something. So, and we eat much more of that, like in the cafeteria alone.
Thank you. Okay, low income group?
Well, we saw that like from our character that it's not balanced, that what we're earning is very minimal and we can't even support our families, and basically we're working in the fields and we we work for the crops and then they get everything, or at least the majority, so we don't have enough to sustain our families. And a solution to this would be more education and more jobs, which would provide for us as well, like for our group.
Thank you. Other comments, please?
Like we also kind of like reflected and that
in like the low class like goes up to the upper class, it's also like also has to be willing to like go a little down to like balance it out. And like in real life, like we are them. Like I don't know if everyone's like willing to like leave like the like benefits or like the luxuries we have.
Very good point. Yes, please.
As Nick said, I also realized that like what they earn in a year is what we end up spending like shopping or like in a day or something. So I find that kind of like shocking to me, because that's like something I spend in a day for shopping, and then when I realize that's what they earn in a year, it's kind of like whoa. Yeah.
So like, to pay for a school, like 1 year, it's $18,000.
It's like a lifetime. Do they have enough
20
money?
years. 20 years working.
Do they have enough money to buy clothes?
So I actually got the fortunate opportunity to visit a village called Soloy up in the mountains of Panama. And I had this experience when I just finished undergraduate college, and I was entering graduate school. And I spent a couple weeks up in this village where there was no running water and no electricity. I think I've shown you guys pictures. And all the people there were of the low, well, yeah, I would say they were in the low income. Maybe some of them would even classify being in the middle income, but mostly low income. The boys all had one t-shirt, one pair of shorts, and they wore that every day. And they were not new clothing, they were secondhand, whatever people donated to the village and didn't want for themselves. And so you could see it was like torn and really thin material because it has worn out over time. And every day they'd go to the river, wash their clothes, and put their clothes back on. And all the girls had one native dress. So they were an indigenous community, and they had one native cultural dress. And every day they would take it off, wash it, and put it back on. And that was just how they lived. And showering and soap and all that, I mean, it's not the way that we're used to it. You can see a film of kind of dirt and oil that's been compacted over time on their skin. So it wasn't the way that you can see your skin is very clean, you use soap, you've washed it, and I can see your skin clearly. They had this film of oil just caked on because of years of never using soap and just going into the river and rinsing and coming back out. I mean, and their hair was also, it was very apparent. And while we were there, it was a really important experience for me, because for the first time in my life, I really didn't have access to food. And, some days we're like, oh, I'm so hungry, I didn't eat breakfast. Yeah, but you still ate the night before, okay? Most of us haven't gone more than 48 hours without eating something, unless we're purposely doing it because we're fasting or something. Even today, think about it, you might feel hungry, but most likely you still had breakfast. Or that you can still go after this block and go buy food in the cafeteria. So there's that reassurance of, I'm going to be fine. I'll be able to satisfy my stomach, no problem. But the situation that I was in was much more like the real situation, although granted, I've had a lifetime of eating well, so it wouldn't do that much damage if I didn't eat for a couple of days. But really, when we got there, no one spoke Spanish. They all spoke the Nube Bogle, that's their indigenous language. So we couldn't communicate. And there was really no food. They had a couple of chickens and that would run around. And for the first day that we arrived there, they sacrificed a chicken for us, and that was a big honor. And the whole village came, and you basically got the equivalent of that much chicken mixed into your rice, because it's such an honor to have meat. And anyway, we finally found these tiny, like basically in some of the huts, they turned like one of the parts of it into a store, and they sell rice and oil and like some canned things. And so we went and we bought that stuff, but then there was no stove. There was a stove, but it had run out of gas. So we were like, what are we gonna do? Like, we can't eat raw rice. And so it was, you know, and I was with 4 other girls, and 2 of them were from Beverly Hills, so I want you to just kind of imagine that, what that was like. And I had gone camping my whole life growing up, so I was a little bit more prepared for the situation. And they were your age. The 2 girls from Beverly Hills were in high school, so they'd never lived on their own, and so it was a really big shock for them. And they were both crying very badly because they thought they were gonna die. Like we were at the point of desperation of like, we are not gonna be able to eat. And it was very scary. The part that was very scary for me was whatever water we had taken from the main city there, because it's like a 6-hour drive and there's only 1 car that comes like every week, back and forth. So if something happens to you up there, you're screwed basically. And so we had taken a couple bottles of water, but as soon as you run out of water, that's it. There is no filtered or clean water that you can drink, and the rivers had malaria in them, so you couldn't drink their water. And if you went in the river, you had to be really careful that it doesn't enter your body in any way. So it was really, really scary. And anyway, I survived. And so what we ended up doing after the youngest girl from Beverly Hills, it was pouring rain, because Panama is very tropical and we're up in the mountains, it's pouring rain. So all the wood is wet. But we were gonna try to start a fire and use one of their, like, the same pot that they killed the chicken and plucked it in, and there's no soap, so they didn't wash it. So we were gonna try to use that pot to cook our rice. And so she like picks up this axe and she's like desperately trying to like chop the wood, and we're trying to make a fire, and she's crying. We were just so scared. And by the way, there's no phones or email or anything like, Dad, what do I do in this situation? None of that, okay? And so, anyways, we ended up finding a boy who knew a little bit of Spanish, or at least he could kind of understand us. And so there was 1 match left in our area, in the hut that we were staying. And he showed us their technique for starting a fire, and he lit a piece of plastic, like a piece of plastic, and he melted it over the wood. And from there, we were able to start a very tiny fire. And from there, covering it so that the rain wouldn't extinguish the flame, we were able to cook the rice. So now we finally have some rice, and we're so excited we get to eat. And by the way, I told you there's no electricity, so we had flashlights. Everything, you put the flashlight here, and you're doing everything at the same time, like while you're cooking. And so the sun had set around 4 o'clock, and we're about to start eating around 6, and all of a sudden we see eyes. You know when you can see eyes in the dark, like cat eyes? We see eyeballs. And we were like, oh my gosh, what is that? We were so scared because there are a lot of animals up there. And so we start flashing our flashlight in that direction, and we see that all the kids of the village had found out that we were cooking, and they had come to get some food. And so there were kids, and they would kind of like creep up behind the walls and hide there, and then and we knew what they wanted. And this was after, like, normally we're very like sharing and giving and like, please have some, please have some. But this was survival. And we were like, we're gonna die, like we need to eat this food. And so for the first time I was really able to feel that I need to survive myself. And so a little bit of it, I was a little less compassionate towards others, but then just looking at their eyes and realizing that we might be going hungry for one day, but they go hungry every day of their life. And so we gave them some of our, basically we split up all the rice, so we ended up getting like a handful of rice, and that's what had to last us until we figured out our next adventure the next day. And the kids, when they got the rice, they didn't even eat it. They put it in, they would curl up their shirts or their dresses, and they put it there, and they would take it home, and later we found out that that was so that they could share it with the rest of their family. Just a handful of rice. So it's a really interesting experience to get to flip sides and feel the compassion and feel what other people are living their daily lives like. And this Hunger Banquet is not nearly, what that experience was, but the limitations of what we have in the class, at least we can start this discussion. So what we're going to do at this time is a couple of things. One, we are now going to move away from the discussion a little bit and now see how the mathematics helps us better understand the situation. And so you are going to be staying in your respective income groups for the rest of the block, but I need you to do a couple things. One is I'm going to ask you all to give your identity cards to Disha. Two, I'm going to ask that you give the three leaders of the groups who have the discussion questions, please give those to Carlos. And then three, you're all going to need something to write with. And if you'd like to get a calculator, because you can do some calculations, please go to your backpack, grab something to write with. If you want to get a hard surface to write with, if you're not at a desk, then that's also fine. Yeah, I'm going to give you the paper, but a notebook if you want a hard surface, but oh, you're fine. Excuse me. Thank you so much. Your middle income group is already over there. Coming over, guys. All right, did everyone get a green packet? Anybody else need a green packet? There's one on your chair, actually. All right, guys. So the first part of what we're going to be doing is called the World Hunger Word Splash. We are going to be taking a look at some words that we're going to be seeing and making sure that we all know what these different words mean. So please take a moment, and any of those words that you're unfamiliar with the meaning of them, I'd like you to circle it or star it. And for the rest of them, if you know what they mean, then you're fine.
What does it say?
Implications. The really dark one says implications. Okay, if there's any words you don't know, please ask someone next to you if they know what it is. Otherwise, we'll go over it as a class. Implications.
I want to explain it, but
That's what it does.
All right, guys, let's see which words you had trouble with. Anyone need a definition for universal? Universal? What is universal? Worldly, global, having to do with the whole world. Hunger. What's hunger? Okay, a need or desire for food, and if you're really hungry, it becomes a painful feeling.